Hello everyone, Kier here, and welcome to the InfiNOT podcast. I'm focused on the casual nature of the game, and each week I discuss the new patch, the new card, and my feelings on the game. Let's hop into it. So this is going to be a shorter episode, obviously. I already covered the OTA, and we could maybe do a little bit of a reflection on that, but to get into the new stuff, we had a patch, and we had a new card, Araña. Starting with the patch, it was pretty light. They did do some bug fixes, but they also made 2 cards into activate cards. And if you have these cards, I mean, they're brand new now. Black Swan used to be a 3/5 that said on reveal until the end of your next turn, your 1 cost 0. And the new text says 2/3 activate until the end of your next turn, your 1 cards cost 0. So they mentioned that Black Swan needed to be brought down a cost because, you know, activates in particular are different from on reveals in that you have to wait a turn before you activate them. Which means, you know, if you put Black Swan down on 5, the until the end of your next turn thing doesn't apply because you could only activate it on turn 6. So to make it a little easier, they made it a 2/3. So you can put it down earlier, and then when that turn 6 rolls around, you can be prepared. I'm still not convinced on this card. I said it before, one of the things that struck me most interestingly about Black Swan is it is technically better than a vanilla 3/5. But it's asking you to use your energy to make your 1-cost cards cheaper when spending that many 1 costs would almost be the same. Now, there are some combos that you can do, and obviously, right, in Bounce, there is certainly a place for a card like this. But for me personally, I just never felt like it justified playing the card. Like, if I wanted to play 3 1-cost cards on turn 4, I could just do that. Now, there is something to be said about, like, playing a bunch of 1-costs with other cards on a turn, like playing a 6-cost and then 3 1-costs. That's good on paper, but then you have all that stuff in your hand. Like, it never made sense to me. But this makes a little more sense, right? The idea that you can play it and then wait until the turn that you need it makes it infinitely more useful than having to, like, squeeze it in on turn 5 or something and then getting it off. So I like it. It's just, I'm personally not a fan of this card still. I've seen some people play around with it, and we'll see how much it improves the card. At least I'm seeing the card. That is an improvement. The second change was made to Hell Cow. The old used to be a 4/8 that said on reveal, discard 2 cards from your hand. And the new Hell Cow is 4/6. Activate, discard 2 cards from your hand. This is a good card. I'm just going to say it. It's a good card now. 4/6 is a respectable body. It's not what you love to see, but it's, you know, it's not the worst either. And having the ability to, like, wait until turn 6 so that your Hell Cow goes off and then your Hella goes off, like, it makes this card very, very good. And it actually fulfills the role now of a backup MODOK, right? MODOK is an incredible card for a lot of lists, but having something that can discard quite a lot is important. I like this. Now, I don't like seeing a bunch of Hella, but I feel like her change makes her beatable. Like, you can beat Hella, especially if you have, you know, something like a Cosmo or an Eliath. Like, most oftentimes, Hella is not going to beat you in the priority game. But yeah, super cool. I like both of these changes. I like Hellcow a lot more. I think Hellcow actually has a place in the game now. I think it's really relevant. The other thing that was changed was Swordmaster. So Swordmaster used to be a 3/7 on reveal, discard a card from your hand. The new is, he's still a 3/7, but he says discard an odd-costed card from your hand. They mention here that the reason they kept the 3/7 is because discarding an odd card is just a lot less useful than discarding an even card, right? Like Moon Knight is a 3/3 because he discards an opponent's card and an even card. It's a very good effect, so you have to temper down the power. This new Swordmaster, I would argue is in fact a really good change. I think giving all of these discard cards like a targeted effect is going to help you, but I think they nailed it on the head. Discarding an odd-costed card is just worse. Like a lot worse. Like, I don't know if Swordmaster is going to find a deck, but in the event that you need to discard an odd-costed card, Swordmaster is going to be your guy, and that 3/7 body is pretty nice. I tried, like, brainstorming to think of a card that would really benefit off of this. Like, obviously, this would be better than Moon Knight in a Ghost Rider deck, because Ghost Rider is an even cost card, right? So you wouldn't want Moon Knight in a deck like that. But the highest odd card that you can get is a 5 cost. So you would have to choose a 5 cost that you would want to discard and bring back with Ghost Rider, and that's a challenge. Because not a lot of 5 cost cards have a base power that you want. One thing that I thought about is maybe you do Swordmaster in like a Black Knight deck, and you have someone like Red Skull. I think Red Skull could be a decent sort of replacement in a list like that, where he has a high base power, but, you know, he's an even cost card, and then you can bring him back with Ghost Rider, and it's not going to be as good as a Giganto or an InfiNOT, but it's not bad. That's, like, the best argument that I can make, and I haven't played around it with myself, although I am curious to see maybe that 3/7 makes up for the fact that, you know, you're not getting the InfiNOT stats, right? Because if you get the Ebony Blade at 14, and then you have Swordmaster at 3/7, that's pretty big, you know? Like, Lady Sif is a 3/5, so you're getting 2 more points on this and losing a couple of points on the Blade. So maybe it works out. I'm just not super convinced that Swordmaster's at the right place, but who knows? I think that this opens the door, certainly, for more cards in the future. Like, if we get another big 5 cost with just, like, base stats, we might have something cooking here. Another thing maybe is Arrow. Like, Arrow actually might be a pretty good choice, right? She was buffed to a 5/10. And you wouldn't be mad about having a 4/10 Ebony Blade and then bringing back an Arrow with Ghost Rider. You know what? I'm starting to see a deck here. I'm willing to try it out. We'll see how it goes. Moving on, the other thing that was added was Araña. And Araña is a 1/1 that says activate, give the next card you play +2 power, and move it to the right. This is possibly like a top 3 1-cost card. Like, the idea that you're getting Forge's effect and a move effect on a 1-cost is kind of nuts. Now, the big difference, obviously, is that Araña does not work like Forge in that he gives the power before the card reveals. Araña gives it to the card after it reveals. And that's relevant, right? Like, you can't combo this with Black Panther, you can't combo this with Brood. Like, it'll still give the power, but it's not going to do it before their effect goes off. So, I would say that this card is still, like, extremely relevant. The idea that this is effectively a 1/3 that gives a move effect is really, really nice. It's like Iron Fist on steroids. And on certain move cards, like Human Torch, that is very, very good. I'm still a little skeptical to see this in other card lists. Like, it has the potential, I feel, to be in a lot of decks, but I haven't seen those lists yet. I haven't seen Araña in a Destroy deck, for example, although having it on a Deadpool is pretty dang good. You would almost always want to replace Forge in a list like that. But we'll see where it lands. I'm convinced that this is an incredibly good card, though. I think that she enables a lot of cards. Just to name a few, right? In the move category, you've got Dagger, Human Torch, Vulture. And, like, even cards that you wouldn't think benefits off of this actually do. Like, having the ability to move into a Sanctum Sanctorum. I always talk about that, right? Like, those locations that are really tough to get around, this enables, right? It's why I argued for Madam Web. I think that there's a place for that in, like, just a good card stack. So really interesting. I'm excited to see like where she ultimately lands. I think it's important too that like with this card, Nightcrawler, like I think this and Nightcrawler are really competitive or competitive with each other, because if you wanted like just a small mover and a deck, you would almost always choose Araña because it gives you more power and you can activate other things with it. But Nightcrawler does have that power of choice, right? You can move to the right or the left. So I think, like I said, I think this could probably go in more lists than it's giving credit for. I have to see those lists first before I'm fully convinced. Those are the major changes that we received. And obviously, the next card coming out is really exciting. It's Scarlet Spider. I love Scarlet Spider. Really cool comic storyline, and I'm excited to see the decks that come out with that card, but that's it for right now. Thank you for listening. And if there's one thing that you can remember, it's that I'm InfiNOT.